the meeting to order. Welcome to tonight's school board meeting. We'll first stand for a moment of silence. Then I'll ask Ms. Thomas to lead us in the pledge.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, as usual, is to approve the agenda. When we approve the agenda, we also approve the consent agenda and any items in it, including any special meetings or call meetings. The floor is now open for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Jones, second. Second by Mr. Iverson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Dr. Cox, I'll now turn the meeting over to you. Thank you.
Good evening. Under communications to the board director's comment, I would like to recognize Dr. McClellan, who's going to give us a brief overview of Engage New York Math.
I will be glad to give you the abbreviated version. You've already heard some of my excitement about how teachers have looked at numeracy work in our district and how we believe we need a stronger curriculum that's better aligned to our standards. So Eureka Math is just the package name for Engage New York. And Ms. Nave, if you'll. So I had a slide, we talked about this, the grassroots part of it, and how teachers know that they should not be spending all of their time that could be with their family creating resources and materials. So they started looking at curriculum that was considered all green on edreports.org. And so they started coming to me saying we need something stronger to build a stronger numeracy foundation for our children. So that's where it began, was right in the voice and hands of our teachers. And this just shows the trajectory and the timeline of, it began as early as February and July, teachers reaching out and contacting me, asking me for stronger resources. And since I'm not the owner of all the knowledge, I just started calling on the teachers and asking them to look into the work and see, what was proven and strong. And then, if you'll go back just a second, Ms. Nave. And then just when we got our district level scores, we knew that we needed to do something radically different to build that strong foundation from kindergarten. So as I've gone over the last month, I just finished my last school today. I've spent 66 hours right with teachers, listening to their voices and celebrating and hearing how to polish the work and take it to the next step. And even though we have lots of level 3, 4, and 5 schools, none of them are saying it's enough. All of them are saying what is next for our kids. So that's why we're excited to continue to work together to polish it. And we celebrate and then we push. So Eureka Math is what we've been discussing. No one is being asked to take it on. They're all stepping forward and saying, may we take this on? And so we're, of course, encouraging them because we know it's strong and aligned to Tennessee standards to do so. This just shows you current curriculum that we have is for math is Pearson. That's what teachers adopted about 4 years ago. And if you'd like to see on edreports.org, the curriculum is not strong as vetted by edreports, and it's actually teachers who are the reviewers across the nation. And then the bottom graphic will show you that Eureka, which is the same as Engage New York, it's just the packaged version, passes all the filters. And I know we talked about those filters and the different tests that edreports puts on them. And then I just wanted to make sure you knew that is this curriculum aligned with Tennessee standards, and I shared with you 3rd, 4th, and 5th is fully aligned. And then there are a few little pockets in K1 and 2, like I think this is kindergarten math, and there's a different work of coins and counting money in Engage New York versus Tennessee standards. So teachers then will just fill in the gaps of the differences. They're very minute. And so then I shared with you the alignment. There are 2 standards in kindergarten, 1 in 1st. And then all of the grade levels are fully aligned to Tennessee standards. So teachers don't have to worry about piecing together curriculum, which is exciting for them. And so just teachers constantly send me pictures. They know that kid work and kid celebrations are what keep me going. So On the next slide, you'll just see, one teacher just showed me an example of a little one who has done a great job breaking down the number 8, and they're called number bonds, so figuring out how to make an 8, and then they write about it. So after they actually solve the problem, they unpack why is it that that was their solution, and then they talk about it too. So then on the right side, it's sideways, and I'm sorry, but on the right side, it's an assessment where the teacher has really dug into what kids can do. And then she takes next steps, and we talked about, Paul, you said, Mr. Robinson said, well, you know, what happens, do you just keep on going when kids aren't getting it? And we had that great conversation about, we're not gonna jet plane through curriculum anymore, we're gonna make sure kids are mastering the content, so. And then the next slide is, this shows you, Julie Miller at Emmett Elementary had taken some of the work and put it into their own journals where they read about it, draw about it, and write about it. So that's an example of student work. And then they're just learning, they're digging in, and they're figuring out the materials, they're collaborating, they're starting to contact each other, like Indian Springs first grade teachers are working with Miller Perry first grade teachers, and they're just so on fire for doing what's right for kids and getting kids the education they need in our beautiful, amazing school system. And then Google Classroom, you asked about how do they collaborate and have support, so they just start, Mr. Gilmore asked, you know, kind of shared that this is a great tool for them to be able to reach each other and post ideas and help each other solve problems when kids have gaps in mastery. And then we're just refining it and watching it, and they're really just, it's like when you get a master's degree and you're taking on an action research project, you know, a level 1 in numeracy is just not enough. So they're basically taking something strong, and they're action researchers to see what is it that we can do to provide the best education for our kids. So I'm real proud of them, if you can't tell. And it's been a great 66 hours of my time spent, the best probably. Any questions?
Well, Dr. McCullough, I just want to say thank you for leading this work and being responsive to the requests from our teachers for additional and better resources. And as you know, I've been trying to get around, and I have seen teachers using this and have gotten some good feedback from them directly. And then I had the pleasure of having a student walk me through an actual problem using some of the methodology. So it was really interesting. So thank you.
That's the beauty of the work.
Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes.
Thank you very much. If everyone would take a minute to look at your calendars. I'm showing that we've dedicated 10/8, 6:30 call meeting that we thought we might need. We can remove that meeting now from your calendar. So that, to the media, that meeting is now canceled. That brings us to 11/7. We have a 5 p.m. workshop, and then the meeting will begin at 6:30. I have that we should discuss our board retreat dates, but I also want to mention the dedication. And Ms. Thomas, is it 10/8 at 1:30? The 8th at 1:30?
Yes.
At Emmons. So if
For
you,
the outdoor class.
is the dedication for the outdoor classroom, if you're able to attend that. So Mr. Cox, are we ready to have any discussion on the board retreat?
Just remind board members, if you haven't, please respond to Ms. King's inquiry of preferred dates. So that we need that critical information in order to help us select the date that has the fewest conflicts, hopefully no conflicts.
And that's gonna be 8 to 4, whatever they would choose, right?
Yes.
What time is that again on the 7th?
5 is the workshop.
Okay.
6:30 is the call meeting. We did that because of the holidays and so forth. Any questions about those dates? Any confusion? Everybody okay? The other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to welcome Mr. Stidham. We have County Commissioner with us tonight. Thank you very much for being here. I also have several principals that are with us tonight. Thanks. I want to do something here that I don't mean to embarrass anybody, but Ms. Nestor, would you stand up? This is Ms. Nestor. She's the principal at Bluff City Elementary. I wanted to mention, we closed the school and put it into her school, and then we added her to 5th grade this year. and she has a really difficult situation she handles every day with the busing, and has never complained, and does an outstanding job getting everyone on the bus safely every day. And just wanted to tell you that I live there, and I see what you do when I'm coming through there, so I really appreciate what you did. You've had a lot thrown at you in a short period of time. We appreciate what you do. Thank you very much. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit. Later in the meeting, we have a vote on the budget issue, but I wanted to take a few minutes to explain some things that's out there that looks to me like maybe confusing to some people. And if I miss anything, somebody can mention it from here or there, and we'll address that too. But one of the things I kept reading and seeing is we have $18 million in reserves. That's true. But $8 million, Ingrid, you can correct me when I go wrong, but $8 million of that is restricted funds that we really can't touch. The one that I always think of is nutrition. That we have money in that restricted fund. What we really have is about $10 million. Of that $10 million, about 3% of the state law requires that we keep 3% in reserves at all times, no less than 3%. So that's about 2.73 million. So that leaves 6 or 7 million. That's money that we keep on hand, for emergencies and things that could go wrong. It's frequent that happens. It's not uncommon. So some people portrayed that as having that much money as a bad thing. That allows us, when we have emergencies, to have a way to pay for it, especially since we lost the $1.6 million that we used to have in renovation. So we're going to continue to try to keep a reserve and even build it. We think that's good, a good way to do business, a good way to run the school system. And the other thing that kept coming up is we have $17 million in cash. That's true too. That $17 million in cash, Dr. Cox gave me a good analogy when we were talking the other day that makes it really kind of easy to understand. In your personal life, that would be like having a couple paychecks put back. On Friday when you get paid, your bank account looks the best it ever looked. And then your house payments and car payments and things start coming out of it, and it goes down until you get the next check. So we try to keep that much on hand to do business. In 2015, we found ourselves in a position that we borrowed $15 million to make payroll, and we paid $30,000 in interest on that money for that period of time because we were not in this position. So we try to keep that kind of cushion there so that we don't find ourselves in a position in certain times of the year having to borrow to make payroll. Did I say that accurately, Ingrid?
We did have to borrow money to make payroll.
I couldn't hear you.
We did have to borrow money in tax anticipation notice to make payroll.
Okay. So when you see those things that people like to put out there, that's not a sign of what I think we're doing wrong. That's a sign of what I think we're doing right. I think we need to continue to try to build that reserve fund. And then I heard things like, well, if you have that much money, why don't you give out a bigger raise? Well, we just, and tonight we'll vote on a resolution to finalize the 2% raise we gave this year. A 2% raise equates to about $1.5 million for all the employees. So you can't give raises out of non-reoccurring money. For example, the money that we have showing up in reserves this year is not guaranteed next year. We don't know what insurance may cost, or retirement, retiree benefits, or we don't know what the price of fuel, what kind of winter we're going to have. All kinds of factors go into that can change what we're able to return to reserves every year. So you can't make payroll or give raises on non-reoccurring money. I think that this board has done a pretty good job of managing our money. The $800,000 that was in question was really, had nothing to do. There was no connection. It wouldn't have mattered if we had $1 billion. The law would have still said you don't meet maintenance of effort, and you don't take money out of reserves to meet maintenance of effort. Those were some things that I saw in discussions that I thought were points of confusion for people in the public. And I wanted to try to help simplify and clarify some of those budget issues. The school budget is very complex. The maintenance of efforts is very, very complex. So it's easy to get confused. Dr. Cox, is there anything else I should mention or explain?
I think, you know, what you said is absolutely true. And a lot of confusion with the maintenance of effort issue came to be because there was discussion of fund balance. The only thing that I would add to that is about having adequate cash to run the operation is the realization that it takes about $500,000 for each day that we operate. And you know, that is to meet payroll, that's to run buses. The other thing that I think is a fact that a lot of people probably don't understand is the grants that we receive from the federal government are on a reimbursement basis. So you have to spend the cash up front and then ask for the money back. So it takes a lot of upfront cash, and it's more fiscally responsible to operate that way than to have to borrow money and then pay interest at the tune of $30,000 a year.
Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any of those things that they saw that they think that we need to clarify? Just wanted to make that attempt to. The budget's difficult, and I'm working hard to be a master of it and understand it better. And I know that it's confusing. So every opportunity we get, we try to put things out in a way that so that people better understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. Having said that, I don't think we have any. I didn't see any public comment, and if seeing none, we'll move on, and I'll turn the meeting back over to Dr. Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. So we would continue then with unfinished business. So the first group of items are the policies that we're recommending for second reading. These, of course, have been voted on in first reading. We had an opportunity to ask if anybody had any questions at the work session. And so to my best knowledge, all of the questions have been answered. So I would recommend for your consideration the adoption of the policies, which are items 6A through E on second reading as one vote.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Iverson. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Gilmore. Discussion on the motion?
Yes, Pat, was the surplus property, has that been, that's different?
Yeah.
That's the next item.
Okay,
I wouldn't do that to you, Jane.
okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. Gilmore,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Iverson,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Spivey,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes,
Thank you. The next item is item 6F, which is the Holston warehouse property. And so Mr. Hull has some remarks and perhaps recommendations for the board's consideration, and I'll ask him to address those.
Okay, well, as we discussed at the work session, I'm going to pass these out here. We've had an appraiser look at this property. We've had a title attorney look at this property, and it does have the restrictions that it may only be used for educational purposes. There are some other restrictions as well. As you know, we had for years a Masonic lodge that met there. I think they have they're not using it anymore, so I don't think that's going to be a concern. But the educational use restriction is a concern. So our options on it are limited, but I wanted to suggest that we at least pursue any possibilities that we might have in terms of transferring. One being to another entity that would qualify for the educational use. Northeast State came to my mind, and I thought we might approach them. I have had a conversation with one private party that was interested, so my recommendation basically is that we pursue those options and find out what we can find out, and if there is a possibility that the board chose to pursue, then we can ultimately do that. If not, I would come back and we would have another recommendation, which may be just to turn it over to the heirs. But I thought we ought to pursue any possibilities that we have, and I would like your authorization. I can work with the executive committee, which is the director and board chair, and however they want to handle that. I thought we would at least follow up on those leads and see where that goes. I mentioned the last time I would like to discuss it with the Office of the Purchasing Agent. Ms. Davis has advertised for us before. We might consider that. If we had one private party that was interested, we might have others. And I say that with everybody hopefully understanding there's a limit on how attractive the property is because of the restrictions. But if one's interested, maybe others would be. So I just think we ought to pursue those leads. We're not in a great hurry, but as we pointed out, we are paying utilities, and there's some cost to keeping it, and we have no use for it. So it would be ultimately in our best interest to move on from that property one way or the other.
If it goes to a private party, does it have to be for educational purposes according to deed restrictions?
Well, that does stay on there. There is the possibility that a court could invalidate that restriction because it's 100 years old. They do disfavor keeping property tied up like that for long periods of time, and there is the possibility that because I guess one could argue that it's gone a while without certainly not being used for classroom educational purposes, that might invalidate it. So a private party might pursue getting out from under those restrictions.
So we would leave it to the private party to pursue getting out from under the obligation of education?
Right. My intention would be, and I don't think there's any other way to do it, we would give them a quitclaim deed, basically, which means what you get is what you get, and we're not guaranteeing anything beyond that. Whatever interest we have, we would transfer. And like I say, there's been an interest in that, so I don't think it's something I should pursue without your go-ahead, but I would suggest we do that.
That's Mr. Hill's recommendation. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Thomas makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gilmore seconds the motion. Discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
At this point, I'd like, I think Mr. Iverson has a consideration.
Sorry, yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the 2020-2021 school calendar issue.
You have a motion to reconsider. To be clear, that motion will require a second, and if it passes, then we'll have a vote on the actual issue. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Robinson. Discussion?
I feel like I really try my best to represent the community and the citizens and the teachers, and I really do work hard at that. I think this is one time that I really missed the boat. I made a mistake. The school calendar had a majority vote in one direction. There was some discussion, and we didn't go that direction. And I think I missed the boat on that one. I made a mistake, just to put it simply. After some discussion with other people in the community and teachers and phone calls and emails, and they made it very abundantly clear I made a mistake. And I appreciate them for that, because that's what they're there for. They're supposed to keep us in check when we don't do our jobs. So that's the reason I made the motion. And if it passes or fails, that's fine. I just think that it's something that we should have gone with a majority vote, because we put it out there for a reason. We had them vote for a reason, and then we took their vote and we disregarded it. And they called us out, and they should have.
Any further discussion?
I guess my concern is kind of a time-honored principle, one person, one vote, and there's no mechanism in the current voting system to determine what the will of the people really is. One person could have voted 100 times, and there's no delineation between what the staff wanted, what students wanted, what outside entities wanted. So that's my big concern, is we don't really know the will until we can limit it to one vote, one person.
My concern also is that we made a decision last month. We announced it, we publicized it, and there's lots of people already made plans for that year for vacation and other things. So if we went back and changed something now, I think it would create an undue hardship on those who pushed for an early decision. And if we don't intend to make an early decision and move forward, we should table votes like that ahead of time and clarify what we're going to do, whether it's majority vote or whether it's otherwise. I would say if we made a mistake this year, we eat the mistake and move forward with what we've already done, which is announce a calendar, publicize the calendar, and basically promise to do better next year as far as making sure everybody understands what's happening.
I would agree that there's some room for improvement. But, am I remembering correctly, was the difference 16 votes? 17 votes?
It was 19 votes.
19 votes. Out of how many?
Out of 1,507.
0.08%, is that what it was?
20.
It's actually 1.2%.
Okay. And so, even with the,
No, I'm sorry, it's 0.8%. 0.8, sorry.
0.8. So it's a very narrow margin, considering the multiple vote possibility. It makes the issue not as clear. Anyway, any further discussion?
Can we correct the voting process? I mean, this isn't like the newspaper, keep Bristol beautiful campaign, you vote every day. There needs to be one vote for one person.
And I'm sorry, another answer to question first.
I can ask our tech department, that's out of my realm, of my level of expertise. I do think that'd be difficult, just because of the controlling IP addresses, and somebody could go to McDonald's and vote, and somebody could go to their house and vote, and somebody could go to work and vote.
Can I just say one thing?
It's your IT.
Listen, my team is far more brilliant than I am. What we could do is, in order to limit things, we could collect email addresses, which honestly we've tried never to do, because we want any survey that we put out for people to know that they can be 100% completely honest with us. And if we do that, then people get this kind of, for lack of a better word, paranoia, or that we're watching them or tracking them, which is really not what we want to do. We could do that, but even at that, I know myself, I have 3 email addresses, so I could put in 3 different ones, and I could vote 3 times. So, I mean, there may be other options and things we could explore, but off the top of my head, that's my first few things there.
Could you not do a school by school vote and just take up paper votes?
We could, that would be more teachers, students. It might not allow parents the ability to do that unless, we came in and they did paper votes when they came in. And then I feel like that would maybe be real restrictive of those people, that it would be the ones that are more likely to more mobile and have transportation and that sort of thing that would be able to vote on that. But, I mean, ultimately, you all could guide us on that particular part.
I just want to make the last comment of, I'll say, anybody else wants to make anything. I acknowledge you're exactly right, Ms. Fillmore. There was a way that people could vote multiple times, and you're right. But both sides could. And I agree 100% with what you're saying. And also, Mr. Jones, I agree with you that we made a ruling and we should do better next time. If it was further along the path, I would agree completely with both of those. I think that this was a mistake. It's still my opinion. I get it. It was something that we can correct rapidly. And if there were many plans, maybe there weren't that many plans. But I would hate to us just to say, yeah, we messed up and move on when we really do have a mechanism for change. So that's just, I'll leave it at that.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the sheet I just passed around of the pros and the cons? And would you like to take a second to look at that, or would you like for me to read them over? I mean, I know you just got them, but the similarities are is they have the same dates for fall break and spring break. They both have one parent-teacher conference day. They both have contain 3 days off for Thanksgiving, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The anticipated end of school is exactly the same. The pros are the holiday break begins on Friday the 18th, half a day, allowing for 5 full calendar days for Christmas. The holiday break is 10 full school days and 11 for students. There's a 2-day winter break. Labor Day, parent-teacher conference, back to school, rather than randomly have students out for another week. And the first day back from holiday is an in-service day. The cons are school starts August the 3rd for students and 27th for staff. We'll have a very early staff developmental day on August the 6th because of the elections that will be held in school buildings. The draft 2 calendar, the pros are school starts on the 10th and the 3rd for the 10th for the students and 3rd for the staff. Students are not scheduled to be in school August the 6th, so they won't have to have an additional in-service day. And then the cons are the holiday break begins on Wednesday, December the 23rd, a half a day, allowing 0 full calendar days prior to Christmas Eve for families to travel. There is a 1-day winter break built in for staff and students. So that gives you a little bit to think about. If you want to take a second to look at it, maybe add discussion based on what you're looking at, that's fine.
I guess the comment that, and I know each of you received the email that came out, and one of the comments that was made was about this. They mentioned, do you really think that we weren't smart enough to read this ourselves before we voted? And I agree. I mean, some of the comments were very blunt, and they should be. They should be when they come out and just tell us that we need to look at things. But I agree 100% with what you're saying, and I thank you for putting it together like this. But I think most of them looked at it. I think they had these kind of things. They looked at it, they made their conscious votes. And
I guess we received different feedback.
yeah, exactly.
You know, because the feedback that I've got is, since people have seen that this was going to be on the agenda, was kind of just the opposite. And for me as a board member, I don't think anybody here really cares one way or the other.
No, I don't think that affects
but
it.
Anyway, any other discussion?
It kind of affects me. I do have kids in Sullivan County.
Okay.
Oh, well, there you go.
And I did get fussed out when I got home. So I completely understand, and I got calls and everything. And the more I look at it, the December 23rd, that means our parents don't have to pay for childcare to watch their kids while they're out working. So I see why they want us to reconsider, and I see why I got all the phone calls and emails.
Thank you. Anyone else? Reminder, we're voting now to reconsider the issue.
So we're clear, there'll be a vote on whether to reconsider. And if we decide to reconsider, then you'll vote again on which calendar. So it's a two-step process. Obviously, if the board doesn't vote to reconsider, that would bring an end to it. It's a little confusing.
Everyone clear, and are we ready to vote?
I got another question. If we do pass to reconsider, is there any way we could take another vote on the calendars?
That's what
we're talking about.
No, I'm talking
No,
the
Okay.
parents,
Oh,
the
okay.
teachers.
Okay.
Is there any way we could set that back up and give them 2 weeks and we actually send stuff to these schools so the parents know what's going on? Because you said we was down 400 votes from last year or so, something was down.
And the way that we notified parents was robocall and then putting it out on the website. We can do that again if you all decide that's what you want to do.
I guess my feeling on that was we'd have to have a vote to reconsider, and if we reconsider, he could ask to table it.
Okay.
So, and that would give us the time to do it.
Mr. Robbins, we'll entertain that discussion if we get that far, okay?
Okay, so yes is to reconsider, no is not.
That is correct. I'll restate it, thank you. A yes vote is to reconsider, a no vote is to keep it the way it is, simply stated. Everyone clear? Think we're ready to vote?
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
No.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
No.
Mr. Hughes?
No.
That puts us into new business. The first issue in new business is the consideration of the resolution passed last night at the Sullivan County Commission. My recommendation is to accept and to authorize our staff to take the necessary steps to resubmit our budget to E-Plan. So I'm looking for a motion on my recommendation.
So moved.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Jones to second. A motion by Mr. Jones and a motion by Mr. Spivey to second. Now, discussion on the motion.
Thank you,
I'm confused what you're asking.
ma'am. Discussion on the motion
Oh,
to...
I'm sorry.
Hearing none?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Next order of business is to consider the resolution on the 2% raise. I wanted to have a little explanation. What we're doing is we're going to send the resolution to the county commission now to move that money and to make that raise effective. Point of clarification, it looks like the first time that raise will appear on paychecks will be November, along with the retro checks. The next county commission meeting is the 17th, so I don't think payroll could process it before that. So my recommendation is to consider the resolution, to send a resolution to the county commission. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Spivey. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Thomas makes seconds. Do I hear any discussion?
And we are voting to amend the budget that we just passed tonight, right? And we're voting a resolution to go to the county commission, put the money onto the one that we just amended a few minutes ago. Am I correct on that?
Is that a correct characterization?
Okay.
Okay. Christie, did you get that?
No, but that's, we just got through passing the resolution to do that, and this year would follow up.
Gotcha. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this formalizes what we already approved pre-budget as a board, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We just have to have permission to move it to the line item to actually pay. Any other questions or discussion?
We are paying them, back paying them, right?
The retro should show up on the November check. It should be effective for 12-year employees. It should show up retro to July 1st, and for others, it would be the first day of work, correct?
Anything else?
But this does have to be approved by county commission before we can put it into effect.
That's correct.
And we're-
They have to have their vote on the 17th before we can process it.
And we're asking for waiver of rules for county commission.
That's correct. Ready to vote?
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
The next item is to name the outdoor classroom at Emmett. This is Mr. Thomas's project, so I'm gonna let her have a little discussion on it before we.
Yes. The outdoor classroom at Emmett Elementary has been completed, and the funds were procured during the time that Deborah Stevenson was principal there. Deborah had some outstanding accomplishments at Emmett during her 4-year principalship there. She was assistant principal, I think, 2 years before that, and took that school to a level 5 school for the whole 4 years she was there. Had the highest scores in the county, and I believe Emmett was the model school for Tennessee in the state. They, the university's industry, there were so many high-level institutions involved in that tour they did that I know the UT College of Business has an ongoing program from the students and the dean come to do marketing and business projects with the students every year, and they received numerous donations. TVA gave them the Trout Project. A walking trail from the school to the river was completed. The ambassador program, I know they received private funds from 2 different donors. And Dr. Lewis, who was a graduate of Emmett Elementary and was the vice president of BOE International, has made donations, and I just have received a call. He wants to make another significant donation to Emmett. So there were many things that took place during the time she was there, and so I think this is well-deserved honor for her. Deborah Stevenson, thank you.
Okay, you have your recommendation? Take your mic.
Oh, sorry.
You have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Gilmore, second. Second by Mr. Spivey. Discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Next and last order of business for tonight is we're making a recommendation to hire Evelyn Radulowski as a consultant on a part-time basis. I make the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Spivey. Discussion on the motion?
I talked to Dr. Cox about this, and he understands hopefully completely why I'm saying what I'm saying, why I'm doing what I'm doing, but Ms. Rafalowski did a great job. She's 42 years. She has invaluable experience, and I think she'd do great in what she's doing, and bringing her back is a good idea, except for the fact that it's going to put, every time that I have had promotions, anytime I've moved into a new job or moved into a leadership role, if the person that was there before me was still there, it detracted from me. It took away. People would, if you walk into a meeting and the both of them there, they're going to start talking to Evelyn first. It's just, there's things that make it very difficult when the person that you're replacing is still there. Phone calls will still come. I'm sure that the central office probably gets phone calls on a weekly, if not daily basis. Can I speak to Evelyn? She's no longer the director, and give the call to Dr. Cox. So as much as I would like to see her come back in that role, I really think it's gonna muddy the water. I think it will always defer. I mean, not always, but it has a potential of deferring to. And every time it's happened to me, and it's happened to me several times, it's always been very uncomfortable. It's always caused issues. I don't think she would, because she's a wonderful person, and I think that she is so easy to work with. I think that she would always defer, but I think it causes potential to have a problem. And like I said, I talked to Dr. Cox, and I know this is gonna pass, and I'm fine with that, but I still think that there's an issue there that's going to have potential, so.
Thank you. I guess I would point out that she already really serves in that capacity for free, and it's not been a problem. Dr. Cox is the director of schools, and if I hadn't told him before, I'm very happy that he is. He's a quick study and extremely pleased that he decided to join us. Evelyn Ravlowski would be the last person that would try to interfere, and I think you're right that there is potential in most cases, but she is the exception almost to every rule I've ever. So I'm firmly I'm in favor of this, but I think Mr. Cox wants to make a comment.
So I do appreciate Mr. Iverson's comments, but I just want to say for the record that I'm absolutely more than comfortable with Mrs. Rafalowski. She is a terrific person, and her input is very valuable, invaluable, with regard to the projects. She has been very involved from the inception of the projects, and the knowledge and the experience that she brings particular to the project is very helpful to me. I feel not threatened at all by her involvement in this, and you know, she is very astute at some things that I just simply don't know, and then frankly there are other people that don't know. In order to advance the projects, I would just respectfully request that we be allowed to have her in a more formal capacity.
Further discussion?
I'll be brief. I understand Mr. Iverson's comments as well. And I completely agree with Mr. Hughes' statements about Evelyn Rafalowski. I have no concern. And especially when we have our director of schools telling us that that would be very helpful for him. And as we could all acknowledge, she's basically serving in that role for free, and I don't think that's fair to her. I mean, I know we're not going to pay her that much money. It won't even compensate her at minimum wage, I'm sure, all the hours she's going to put in. And solely as to these projects, Dr. Cox has a great background in finishing projects through in his career, but I think Evelyn brings that factual day-to-day knowledge that can help supplement it. I think it's a positive thing for our school system and our kids in the long run.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ready to vote?
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Staley?
Yes.
I didn't see anyone else have public comment for non-agenda items, so if that's the case, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.